and welcome to She's the Boss, the show that is all about female founders and women doing extraordinary things in business. Now, if you enjoy the episode, please like, subscribe to the channel, all the normal things. But today I am super excited because I have the founder of One Roof with me, Sheree Rubinstein. Sheree, welcome. It's so fantastic to have you here.
Thanks, Jules. It's really wonderful to be here.
Well, I am dying to hear all about your story. I hear everybody talking about One Roof all the time, all around town. So tell everybody what it is that you do and what One Roof is.
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of One Roof and One Line as well. We design virtual and physical spaces for women on the rise and those helping to lift them. Our mission is to reshape the world of work for women. And so basically the last 5, nearly 6 years, I've been running. Sorry, my AirPod fell out. I've been running One Roof as a co-working space. So a co-working hub for women, providing everything women need to succeed in business all under one roof. And then when COVID hit, of course, impacted my business as it did everyone. And so I actually launched One Line, which is a virtual membership for women. So continuing to provide all of the support, the mentorship, the events, the office hours with experts, all under now a virtual roof.
Well, what can I say other than this is so needed and I'm so ecstatic that you're doing this. But I bet there was a bit of a moment that you had at some stage where you just went, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm going to go start my own co-working space. Can you tell me, was there a bit of a light bulb moment, something that happened to make you set up One Roof?
Yeah, so I started my career in corporate law, working at a top tier law firm. And I think firstly, I felt like a fish out of water from day one. Law just probably wasn't my calling, and I really just fell into it. But then
and a very masculine environment too. We've had a few lawyers on, and there are so many lawyers that become entrepreneurial. It's very interesting.
It is, yeah, that's right. And I guess the other thing coupled with the fact that I didn't feel like it was my calling was that I felt literally from day one in the workforce that the messaging that I kept receiving as a young, ambitious, career-driven woman was that your chances of success are diminished or are slightly less because of the simple fact that you are a woman. And,
oh my God, how did you even stand it? It would have just been so hard.
Yeah, it was hard. It was very hard. And I had this interesting moment where I was sharing an office with a fellow graduate who became a very good friend of mine. And she turned to me one day and she said to me, "So Sheree, are you a feminist?" And I looked at her and I
love this. Yeah, what'd you say?
Yeah, I didn't know. I said to her, you know what, I actually don't know if I am or not. And she said, okay, great, I'm going to give you some homework. And so she sent me home to read a number of different books, including The Wife Drought and Lean In, and to do a whole lot of research. And at the time, Julia Gillard was Prime Minister. And yeah, through the research that I was doing, through my own experiences that I was having and what I was seeing in terms of the lack of women in positions of leadership, not just at the firm that I was at, not just in the legal profession,
everywhere,
but everywhere across the board, I became incredibly frustrated and equally passionate about, supporting women and closing the gender gap in business and entrepreneurship. I did actually start volunteering with a not-for-profit called Fitted for Work. So they support women who experience disadvantage to find financial independence and employment. Incredible organisation. And
are they the ones who help women get clothing to go for the interviews and things?
Correct. So they dress women.
Amazing.
They help with CV writing. I was a mentor, so I started as a volunteer and then worked for them. And so that continued my passion and love for working with and supporting women. I started volunteering with the Victorian Women's Trust as well. And then I kind of started dabbling in my own journey of entrepreneurship. And
let me just stop you first and say, after you did all your research, I'm just fascinated by the negative connotations, I guess, that I feel are around the word feminism. And in fact, I've got 3 young sons, and I sat them around the dinner table one night and I said, what do you think a feminist is? Do you think
Mm,
I'm a feminist? And they went, oh,
mm,
we think feminists are with people who hate men. And I was like,
yeah.
no, they're people who believe in equality. So I'm really interested, when you did your research, what did you find? Did you think that you were a feminist? And if so, how did you define it?
Yeah, absolutely. I very quickly realized that I am 100% a feminist, and I define it as the equal, believing in the equal right, opportunity, and choice, regardless of gender. And
Yeah.
so, having access to equal right, equal chance of success, equal choice. And yeah, I also had interesting conversations with my partner, and at the time we were living with a couple of friends. One of them is a guy, and he was saying to me, Sheree, you keep talking about this feminism thing and this thing about supporting women. Be careful, because you might end up being branded as somebody who's a bit obsessive
That
over
is
this.
exactly it. And I think there's a lot of fear there for young women that they are going to get branded in this way. And so somehow or
Yeah,
other, between us all, we've got to make people realize it's just about rising women up and making sure that we're all equal. It astounds
yeah.
me that it's taken on this negative connotation for younger women over the last, I guess, 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, and I have like a great story just to finish that off. The
Yeah, great.
friend, the male friend who said that to me after a while of us living together and having these, dinner table conversations about it, he realized he's a feminist and is like,
Yes.
outwardly identifies as that, and then was actually involved in the Equal Crossing project. So where there's a pedestrian crossing in the CBD where they actually have a female on the crossing, all the
Oh, I
crossings of
didn't know
images
that.
of
Yeah, I didn't know
yeah,
that. That's
so
amazing.
just outside Flinders Street Station. So he has gone on his own journey of discovering how he's a feminist. And so, yeah, I think the semantics of the word create challenges for us, and we do need to
Yes.
overcome
And yet,
that.
I would say most people want equality. Most people understand it. And so they just feel that it's a negative word rather than what it actually is.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got to define it on our own terms and define it according to what works for us.
That's
And
right.
I think a lot of my journey of being a feminist, I've uncovered and realized that it's not about attacking other people. It's not about demanding change in a way that makes others feel like it's their
Um,
fault or we're attacking them. It's really about
that's right.
education, about bringing people on the journey, and so it's very much about how you articulate and talk about your vision
Yeah,
and the world you want to create, and bring people along that journey with you.
that's right. And we all want to be inclusive. So I am dying to hear your story. You alluded to it earlier that you started off in law, but can you
Mm,
tell me how your career has evolved? Just because there'll be loads of women watching who'll be going, I want to be just like her. And we all
mm,
think, well, we don't. But at the beginning, when we start businesses, we think, oh, I'm going to decide to go there and it'll go like this. Nice straight line. I'll just follow my path and it'll all happen. And that
yeah.
so rarely does happen like that. Can you talk to me about, leaving school and how you've got where you are now?
Yeah, so I was quite an ambitious and studious kid. I loved learning. I think it was just in my nature, in my DNA. And I did really well at school. And my parents convinced me to study law and go down that path. I loved writing.
Hang
I
on,
thought
what
I
do
was,
you mean they convinced you to do law? You didn't want to do it yourself?
I
Were
didn't
you one of those smart students who felt they should because you got the good marks?
Pretty much. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought
Right.
I loved writing, and I thought I wanted to own my own magazine. And so
Wow.
and they said to me, why don't you try law? You got the marks. So I did law and media and communications as a degree. But the interesting thing was, just backtracking from that, I grew up. Basically, I say that my home was a business. So my parents ran their own business, and
Ah.
eventually turned our very small home, so it turned our living room into a business. And so I was surrounded by secretaries and IT people and workers coming in and out of the house every single day. And
Wow.
my world, I grew up in a business, and
That's
so
amazing. What a great role model they were for you to sort of inspire you to do something similar.
Yeah, I mean, every conversation was about work, and they are probably workaholics, and I'm sure that has trickled down to me. So
Did
for
you find
better
it a bit
or
much though
worse,
sometimes? Did you go, I want to live in a house where there's no cameras and secretaries and it's just home?
I loved it.
Yeah, great.
I loved it. I think my brothers struggled a bit more, but I really loved it. And
Fantastic.
so I think that kind of entrepreneurial spirit was always there. I just didn't realize it initially. And so, as I said, started in corporate law, but it really wasn't for me. I knew that from early on. But you don't really know yourself, and so it does take time to work out what are your skills, what is the environment where you're going to thrive best. And so it took a while for me to work that out. I, as I said, became very passionate about supporting women and working with women. And so I started by running networking events. So I just figured that there would be, I was struggling trying to work out my own journey, feeling quite anxious, struggling with kind of self-confidence, having a lot of doubt, having a lot of fear. And so I thought if I bring other women together, I'm sure they're feeling the same way. And so I ran these networking events with great speakers and in different locations. And at the time, I mean, now there's so much going on for women, and there's a lot of these networking events and groups and
There
memberships.
are a hell of a lot, yeah.
At the time, which is great. It's really
Yeah,
important. But at
the more
the
the better.
time, yeah, exactly. At the time, there wasn't a lot. And so from that, I started to run focus groups. So I wanted to get deeper into what is it that women feel are holding them back? What are the barriers, and what do they feel they need to really
Oh,
succeed?
fascinating. Did you end up doing a report on that? Was that kind of research then publicised?
No, I
Darn
didn't.
it.
But
I've got to do the same.
my
We've done a survey recently and I need to do the same. Let everyone
yeah.
know what's going on because women are fascinated to know what's going on as well. But what did you find?
So we discovered that the biggest barriers that women said they were facing is fear, is lack of access to finances, to mentors, to the issues with childcare, the issues with being the primary carers, needing
Yeah.
a network, a professional network, and so through these conversations and garnering these insights, I came up with an idea, and the concept was I'm going to create this physical hub that provides everything women need to succeed in business all under one roof, hence where the name One
Fantastic.
Roof came from.
Right.
And so I knew I needed to test the concept. And so I actually rented a two-story mansion in St Kilda. So I found this woman's home on Airbnb, and
Love
for
it.
1 week completely converted her home into a co-working space.
Right.
And yeah, and so ran networking events and created this space for people to come and work. So it was like a co-working space in this woman's home. And in 1 week we had
That's
500
amazing.
people. 500 people come
500.
to. Yeah,
Wow.
it was.
Can I ask, and I don't, because I don't know very much about One Roof. When you say it's there and it helps mums and things as well, can they bring their children? Is there childcare? Is there anything like that, or is it just that understanding and that great support for I've got to dash my kids sick or I've got to go pick them up from school?
Yeah, so we then moved into a space in Southbank. We were there for nearly 4 years. So this is like, imagine a huge building with an event space, offices, meeting rooms, hot desking. And
Wow,
so we had 160 members every day working out of there, plus a 200-person event space. And so
that's
in
huge.
yeah. And so in that space, it was very it was known that you could bring your kids in, that we actually partnered with one of our tenants called Kids Co and ran kids holiday programs, and actually
Oh,
had
fantastic. That's what I was hoping you were going to say.
yes, and had an on-site nanny with a company called
Oh,
Nannyja, and so you
heaven,
could come and take a meeting, and there was a nanny who could, go and look after
keep
your
an eye
kids
on
for
you.
a couple of hours.
Brilliant.
We also had a breastfeeding area with a little fridge, um,
Oh,
room, with a locked door. So yes, we really thought about all of
you
that,
did.
and
Oh, when I had my first child, I just have to tell you, I worked in a company and they had never, ever, ever in 30 years had anyone pregnant there. And I came back after the baby and they put milking station as a sign on the door and kind of locked me in this tiny little dark room where I could pump my breast milk. I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is like a joke.
yeah,
So yours
and
sounds fabulous.
And it's so interesting, your story, Jules, because I think so many women have a similar story like that. That, you know, if you're one of the first women in a work environment, they just have no idea like what
No
you
idea.
need, and they don't ask you. You know, they don't
No,
ask
they
you
and
what's
they don't want to
needed.
know either. I don't think. I think there
That
was a bit of la 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 la. You know, just do what you have to do. I don't want to know what it is.
Yeah. And I really hope, with everything going on at the moment and people doing Zoom calls and, you know, the working from home kind of culture that we've got. And I know with like, I've got a 7-month-old. Goldie was born 1 week into the first lockdown in Melbourne, and
Wow.
I brought her onto lots of Zoom calls. I've been breastfeeding while I've been on Zoom calls. And so I hope that we're slowly, I'd love for it to be quickly, but we're seeing a shift, that it's becoming more acceptable that kids
Yeah,
are involved and there, and, you know, yeah, it's chaotic, and so let's acknowledge the chaos rather than.
that's right. That's right. And actually, my kids are now a little bit older, and we've been doing parent teacher calls every Friday right the way through the last 7 months. And it's been fantastic for me anyway, because there's a guy, one of their teachers is a guy with a very young baby, and he's been kind of you know, managing the baby through the call and kind of apologizing. I'm going, go for it. It's just so great to see. So I hope
Yeah.
there is more of that. You're right. There's been an opportunity for us to see how it might work, and it has worked. So hopefully this is the beginning of a lot more tolerance for young children and their parents.
Absolutely.
Right. So you set up this place, or you got this huge place. You started it all off. How has the journey been? Have there been any challenges along the way where you've gone, oh my God, what have we done? This is all a disaster. And you look back on it now and you kind of go, well, actually, that was kind of good in a lot of ways. Have there been any moments that you've learned from, I guess?
Honestly, I think every single day is a lesson, and the number
Yes.
of times I've had my head in between my hands and walked into a meeting room and burst into tears is just, I couldn't even count. Um, you know, so many challenges. I mean, I started the business with a business partner, and she was based in the US, and we were setting up spaces across Australia and the US, and thought we were going to build this epic global company and take over the world and support
Yes.
women everywhere. And it obviously didn't turn out that way, and we had to go our separate ways. And so, you know,
How was that actually? Because I've done that as well. Once very successfully, once very acrimoniously, and it's very, very challenging. I mean, one of the things that I always say to women is get that contract there that says how you're going to unravel this if it doesn't work out. Did you have one of those in place?
We did, but it wasn't
Very
watertight
pleasant.
enough.
Oh,
You know, and so the situation that arose, we didn't think about it. And I think the reality is, when you do get those contracts, shareholders agreements, partnership agreements in place, you actually need to talk out all the possible worst case scenarios. And it's a really uncomfortable conversation to have,
it's
but it's
horrible.
really important.
I
Horrible,
agree.
yeah. And you've really got to do it up front.
Yeah. So what happened? So your partner has left, you're on your own. And I know that moment because I've had that a couple of times myself, where, well, for me anyway, I kind of froze. I was like, I don't even know what way to go. And it took me probably 2 or 3 weeks before I could absorb the fact I was on my own and that I was going to have to make some changes, but also the freedom that it allowed me to make any changes that I wanted. How did it affect you?
I struggled for a while.
It's hard.
I'm somebody who loves to work with people. I need to make decisions in a group, in a room with others, talking it out. And so, being on my own for the last few years, I've found it quite hard. I've always wanted a new business partner. I guess the beauty of my situation was we argued. And so my ex-business partner's name is Gianna. And so we obviously had our arguments. I think there was a month where she didn't want to talk to me. But after that, we actually moved on, and she's like a fam. She's like my sister.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's fantastic.
So
that's really good outcome.
A really good relationship, and I still call her all the time to talk about One Roof and the challenges and get her advice. And so I think we were really able to rise above the ego, the frustration, the money conversations, all of that, to build a really strong relationship.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful. That's a real testament to you because it's a bloody hard thing to do.
bloody hard.
Sometimes, particularly if you feel like you've been abandoned or you feel like they've taken something the wrong way or whatever. So you've
Yeah.
muddled on your own. Have you got any more stories you can tell us of challenges and how that has affected you and the business?
Yeah, so another challenge we had was the site that I took on in Southbank was always a short-term opportunity because it was going to be redeveloped. So basically the landlords, I pitched this idea to the landlords, they're developers, and they said to me, I've got this site in Southbank, it's awesome, it's sitting there dormant, you can have it, like we'll give you a good deal for about maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years, but the second we get permits, you need to leave. And so I thought, you kind of don't really think about it. You're like, yep, okay, let's just get in there. I did.
Give it a try.
Yeah, give it a go. Who knows what's going to happen?
That's right.
I spent a crazy number of hours with my family, with my friends, with my partner, building the event stage, painting the walls, doing everything as kind of economical and lean as possible. And over a couple of years, built up this huge space to be the leading co-working space in Australia for women. Like we
Just
saw
amazing.
200,000 people in and out of the space every year. And so it was amazing, and it was an amazing opportunity. But the call came, and that was in June last year, where I got the call that was, okay, you've got 3 months, and you need to leave. And you can imagine the stress of, like, I've built up this business. We've been there for nearly 4 years. I thought I was just gonna, the landlords kept saying you'll have longer.
Right, 4 years, right? Yep. And
Yeah,
it's scary because there's a lot of cost involved in moving. Never mind the fact that you've spent all that time and money building the first place. You've then got to go and find another place, and just even the wiring. I remember when I moved offices at one stage to Greville Street in Prahran, the wiring itself just to hook everyone into the phones and the computers was really expensive.
It's unbelievable. It's so much work. And my biggest fear was, how are the tenants and our members and our event clients going to take this news? And I mean, I was honest with everyone up always from the start, but I kept saying it's okay. We've still got a while. And I had actually raised capital in this time, so I knew that I needed a new permanent site. And so I raised capital with some really amazing investors, majority of who were women. And that was
fantastic.
Yeah, and that was its own interesting, challenging experience.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about that? How did you do it? And because the capital raising is just so difficult anyway, I'd love you to sort of expand on that a little bit. How did you manage to do it? And how did you find women to invest?
So I knew that I needed to raise capital because the co-working business model is very capital intensive, and there was no way that I had enough cash in the bank from the business I'd been running for the last 4 years to set up another co-working site, unless I got a very good deal. Like basically a landlord needed to say, here, we'll give you,
have this for free.
Exactly.
Or close to it.
Exactly. And so,
oh my God, you must have been felt so sick at that time, sort of thinking, God, the pressure to try and find that money.
Oh, huge pressure. But I think I also was just so laser focused. It was almost like, there's no way it's not going to happen. You kind of, there's this level of naivety where you're just like, here's my mission, I'm on it, and I'm just laser focused at it. So I also knew that the business model that I had wasn't it's not a tech business. And so I couldn't go to VC, to venture capital capitalists, because they're looking for scalable businesses that are tech enabled, that we'll see.
I know. I'm so bored with the fact that they all want the same kind of business.
Exactly. Well,
anyway.
Yeah. And look, that's their mandate. That's they've got their own investors, and so they want to 10x their money. And I knew, I wasn't trying to be the next WeWork for women. I was co-working was one element of what we were doing, but there were so many other parts to it: the business support, the accelerator programs, the mentoring. I really wanted to do an investment fund. Like, it was a whole ecosystem with an underlying purpose and impact that it's not just about the financial return. It's also about, how we support and impact women. And so
Yes.
I just knew that there was no point pitching to VCs. There was no point pitching to anyone who was looking for a really scalable, multi-billion dollar business. And
Yeah.
so I knew that I'd heard that family offices and high net wealth families, and particularly women who would
Yeah.
be aligned and care about what One Roof stands for and really, resonate with it. They were my target. And so I had built a great professional network over the years. I just love meeting people, and I've been doing it.
Same.
Yeah.
High five.
Yeah. And obviously, Jules, as you're interviewing so many people for this show, which is amazing. And it's obviously something that you do love, and you get to have these great conversations.
I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's brilliant. And I mean, I didn't have a YouTube channel or any kind of show going, but I was having these conversations with women, all the time. And so I built this great network, and I just asked for introductions. And I was introduced to
Good on
initially,
you.
a couple of people. One was Carol Schwartz, who, very
Yeah.
prominent business leader, very passionate about supporting women and closing the gender gap. And another was Susie Karp, who runs River Capital, which is an investment fund and also does a lot in the community and supports a lot of not-for-profits and social enterprises. And they actually, one of the great things was I connected with Susie. We had this really great connection, and she said to me, Sheree, I'm going to put on a lunch at my office. I'm going to invite 20 people in my network who are all high net wealth investors, philanthropists, who might be interested in what you're doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing that she'd do that for you.
Amazing. And she said, I can't promise anything.
What a dream.
It's up to you, but good luck. And from that lunch, which was a really encouraging environment. It wasn't, a lunch where I had to stand there and pitch, and it was like a dragon den where they asked really hard questions and delved into the finances. And it was really just...
Oh, it sounds like a dream.
Yeah, it was amazing. Tell us your vision, tell us why you're doing it. And it was a great conversation. And from there was a lot of coffees and catch ups to get the investors. And I did actually have a business coach for a while supporting me through that process because I'd never done it before.
So how long did it take, really, from that lunch, say, through to getting the money in your hands?
It took 8 months, roughly. So it really, it was the last 3, I mean, the term sheet went out probably within about 4 months, but to get them, the shareholders agreement sorted, to sign the dotted line, to get money in the bank, it just takes a long time. I couldn't believe how long it took. And then, the most challenging, or one of the most difficult decisions I've made since then was, in the last few months, I actually returned the capital to investors. So basically...
Oh, did you? That's fantastic.
Yeah. So basically, when COVID hit, I had signed a heads of agreement on a site in Cremorne. So I was getting ready to start fit out of a new building, and it was going to be this epic premium space with a business lounge, a kids room, a breastfeeding room, beautiful conference facilities, offices, all, like, really, it was my dream that I'd envisaged for so long, all kind of coming to life. And then when COVID hit, I had to put the deal on hold. I very luckily hadn't signed a lease, and so I could walk away and actually return capital to investors. And I said to them, I don't know what the co-working industry is going to look like. I don't really know what direction is the right direction to take the business right now. And I don't want to give you an answer until we see what happens with COVID and until things play out a bit more. And
see, that is so fair and lovely of you. I reckon, and I'm going to do something that I normally wouldn't, but I reckon if it had been a lot of other people, particularly men, they would have taken the money anyway and kept going. So I think that really shows your integrity that you offered to, give it back to them and wait and see what was going to happen. So how has it panned out since then?
So since then, I launched one line, and I did that very quickly. So it was basically, we've got this,
well done.
thank you, this engaged network, all these members waiting for something, people particularly in Victoria sitting at home for the last 8 months, just not knowing what to do with ourselves. And so
yes.
I, very quickly launched, redid the website, set up this online membership for women. We did, we just made some very quick calls. Like, we partnered with a social enterprise called Metal. They support women who experience domestic violence, and they send a welcome pack to every single new one-line member. So that gets sent to your door, and it's got these beautiful, clay masks and bath salts, and
Oh, gorgeous.
And so even that is just like this really nice, like, welcome to the club, welcome to the family.
Yeah.
We do very personalized onboarding experiences and really take the time to understand our members, their needs, their businesses, their challenges, and then connect them. And we run weekly coffee and accountability sessions, weekly events. So this week we're doing a workshop today on managing your cash flow and finances.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And so, I could go on. We've got a Facebook group. There's so much happening.
And the other thing is, when you were doing a co-working space in Melbourne, you're basically constrained by geography in a lot of ways. Have you found that now you've done one line that you are pulling in women from all over the country, or is it still very Victorian-centric?
It's a great point, and we're definitely seeing women all over the country, and particularly in regional Victoria.
Yes, they're loving it.
Exactly.
They're loving us being online, those regional women, and I completely understand.
Exactly, and I'm excited by the fact that we can scale it. This is something we always wanted to do, but we were very focused on the physical space because that was the hardest thing to build up, and so instead we've kind of done the reverse, built the online model, and we've got nearly 200 members now. So, and we only launched it a few months ago. So it's been great. And I had a baby, and so for me,
yes, just throw that in the mix.
Yeah, so to be able to work from home, to attend all these virtual events, to connect with the community, rather than I think about what the alternative was going to be, which was me driving to Cremorne every single day, with a baby screaming in the car, trying to, work out how to build
very challenging.
Yeah. So
have you got big global aspirations now? Is it now that you've set it up here and you can go national? Of course, there are no boundaries. And one of the things that I've noticed with She's the Boss is that there are women from Iceland and India and all over the place starting to contact me to say, love what you're doing, because we know that this is a global movement. This women supporting other women, I think, has just become really profound out of COVID, or I'm feeling it anyway. So I just wondered whether you've got plans now to, go around the world as well with what you're doing with One Line.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already got a member in Japan and a couple of members in New Zealand. So I think when there's a close time difference, it helps because of when the events are taking place. We do record most of our events anyway, but I think that helps. But yes, exactly as you say, there's no limit, there's no boundaries. I feel that we may still do physical space, co-working in some way when the time is right. But, I think that working from home and connecting virtually is here to stay. And so it's great. The silver lining out of COVID and this pandemic has been that we can connect virtually, in these great ways. And so, I've been able to build a business on it.
And one of the other things that I personally, this is my take on what's been happening with everyone being online, is that we're now used to seeing people's heads and not the rest of their bodies, basically. So it normalizes all of us. It doesn't matter that you've got smart clothes or that you have a fancy car. And it also doesn't matter if you've got a big bottom or any of those things that women used to really worry about. It's all been removed, because when you're looking at someone's face, you're listening to what they say. It really doesn't matter all that other superficial stuff. And I'm hoping that that's going to be one of the great repercussions that comes out of this as well.
Yeah, it's such a great way of putting it. I haven't even thought of it like that. But yes, it's right. It's right. And
it's taken away all that falseness, I guess, all that kind of, you've got to look a certain way and you've got to be a certain weight in order to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that you have to be a certain weight. Or age, that's the other thing. Certainly for older women, the chances are less and less in a lot of different ways. So it's great to just bring everyone, all shapes and sizes and all different parts of the country together.
Yeah, and level the playing field, which is what we're trying to do in our work, right, Jules? So yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, listen, Sheree, thank you so much for sharing your story. I absolutely 1,000,000% love what you're doing with One Roof and with One Line. I'm sure anybody listening to this is going to go straight up and find a way that they can be part of it. Can you tell people what's the best way to join up or to get hold of you?
Yep. So our website is weareoneroof.com, and you can find out more about the membership and sign up there. I'd also say check us out on Instagram, We Are One Roof, because we do a lot on there. And
I saw. I went in yesterday. Got about 7. How many thousands of members? Was it 7 or 8,000?
We've got 12,000.
12,000 members on Instagram. Yeah. I'm hopeless on Instagram. So you're on Facebook as well.
I'm on Facebook. Yes. We are.
And then I found you via LinkedIn, so you're there as well.
Yeah, I'm quite active on LinkedIn too. So yeah, Sheree.
It's my new favorite platform. What do you think? It's funny, like 3 years ago, if you'd said to me LinkedIn, I was like, oh my God, all it is sort of ads that people put through. And then about 2 years ago, I went, you know what, I'm going to treat it a bit like Facebook, but I'll just do the business stuff that I'm doing. And it's just exploded. I absolutely love it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think for your individual profile and building up, who you are as a leader and what you stand for and keeping it completely business focused. That's exactly what LinkedIn is for. And I agree, it's brilliant. Like I get incredible engagement through just posting about things that we're doing. So I also love it.
Yeah. And I also think that for a lot of women on, say, Facebook and some of those, unless you're a mummy business, a lot of people don't like you talking about business all the time, but business is such a passion of mine.
Yeah.
It's like when people say you can't talk about business, I'm like, oh, what else am I going to talk about then? So it's really nice to be able to have somewhere to, spill it all out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, if you've enjoyed this interview, please check out some of the other interviews. We've got more over there. I also have the She's the Boss Chats podcast on most platforms where I'm interviewing at least 2 female founders every week. And if you're interested in my Zoom lunches, which I do on Fridays with female founders, then please come along. Check it out on shestheboss.com.au, and I hope to see you for the next episode.